YouTube, what is up? Pocket Profit coming back with another video. Today guys, in this video I'm going to talk about 5 mistakes that new clothing sellers make when they're selling on places like eBay and things like that. But before we get started with the video, you guys, if you want to learn more about eBay, Amazon, online business, anything like that, make sure you subscribe to this channel and get notifications checked, because I'm going live all the time. You can come in and ask me questions right there on the spot, and I'm putting a lot more content out all the time. So go ahead and get subscribed, and let's go ahead and get started with the video. So the first thing that a lot of people do that is a mistake is they don't do enough research on what they're buying. And a good example for this is, we all know Ralph Lauren polo shirts, right? We all know those, but a lot of times people don't realize that not all of them are valuable, right? There's different levels, different tiers, different tags. There's like different color tags that make certain ones more valuable. The horse and pony little badge that they have on them. The differences in those can make shirts different and valuable depending on what they are, because there's like a solid regular color. Then there's like where the color of the horse is the brown, and then the person on top is also a different color. And all those little things can make the value different on that item. And so what will happen is someone will go into a thrift store and they're like, oh, I watched a video and they said Ralph Lauren polo shirts, right? Ralph Lauren, Ralph Lauren, Ralph Lauren. So they get that in their head and they go and they start looking through a rack, and I'm like, oh, that's a Ralph Lauren, puts it in the cart. Oh, that's another Ralph Lauren, puts it in the cart. Another one, another one. And they end up buying all these Ralph Laurens, and then they go home and they're listing them and they're not selling, or whatever. That's because they didn't do enough research. They didn't understand which ones were the most valuable, which ones were the most sought after. Is it just the big logo? Is it the certain Ralph Laurens that have the certain tag, the better quality on that? And they're just not doing enough research when they're buying stuff, and they're not checking completed listings well enough. So I think that is a huge one, especially if you're jumping into clothing. You need to understand the variations per item. Brands, just because it's a certain brand doesn't mean it's always worth something. There's variations to make certain things actually more valuable, and you need to learn those things and really do that research before you go crazy just buying every Ralph Lauren a polo you see. So I think that's a huge one, and something that a lot of new sellers make mistakes on. So huge one. Make sure you're doing enough research. All right, number 2, the second mistake I see, and I'm a victim of this too, guys, is you get excited. You're at the thrift store, you're wherever, you get excited. You found a Robert Graham shirt. You're just pumped, right? And you look at it, looks good, throw it in the cart, you go pay for it, and you go home. Well, you get home, it's time to list it, right? And you're looking it over and there's a hole in it. Oh man, you didn't check the condition good enough. You got trapped into your excitement, and it's the first time finding it, and you throw it in the cart and you pay for it. You gotta check the condition good when you're at the thrift stores. Make sure you're laying it out on your cart, checking the seams, checking all that stuff, because it's gonna come back and bite you if you don't. I understand the excitement, but if you don't do a good check, it's going to be not valuable anymore. So like I said, a lot of times you're excited, you just throw in the cart, you pay for it. But make sure you're checking if the buttons are there, the tags are there, the seams are looking good, there's no stains on it, no moth holes. There's a long little checklist you kind of got to go through. And you know, if you want to just throw it in the cart and keep shopping, but that's fine, but make sure you do those checks afterwards. Because I don't know, like I said, I'm a victim of it too. I've gotten home and I'm like, woo, I'm excited, and I go to start listing it and it's missing a button, there's a small hole, there's a little tear, and if I would have just looked at the item before I left, I would have not purchased the item or realized the profit margins are different. Not every item you buy that has a button missing, rip, or something is going to be automatically not valuable, but it's definitely going to affect the way you list it and affect the price. So make sure you guys are really checking that condition, even though you're excited. I get it. All right, so the third mistake a lot of beginner sellers make when they're selling clothing is they don't take enough pictures. And this is a little bit, you know, to some people, hey, your name, whatever. But I really think you need to take a lot of pictures of the item when it comes to clothing, because this is people's they're going to be out wearing this. If it's something that you missed in pictures and they didn't catch it, and they're wearing the shirt and they're getting made fun of, let's say, or someone's joking at them like, ooh, there's a hole right there, or do you see that stain, or whatever. If you're not describing your item good enough and not giving enough pictures, that could spell bad news for you. That's when the returns happen, the negative feedback comes in, and it's just super important. So a lot of times, I see people just do the front, the back, done. Well, you got to do a little bit more than that, guys. You got to get the front, get the back. If it's designs, make sure you get close up in designs, the tag, all that stuff, and really give the customer a good idea of what they're purchasing, because it's going to help you lessen your return rate. And if you're it's more of a high value item, it's going to make that customer feel better about purchasing that item. So really take more pictures. Try to fill up your slots if it's applicable. If it's a postcard, obviously, I know we're talking about clothes, but a good example is postcard. You really can only take the front and the back, and there's not much more. But with clothing, there's the front, the back, the sleeve, the neckline, the tags, all that stuff. Make sure you're really putting those pictures in there. Give as much quality to them so the customer can make a good decision. And if they're really good pictures and the item's really good quality, I bet you're going to get more money out of the item as well. So super important to do that. Now, this kind of leads me into number 4. Tip number 4 is taking measurements for the high value items. Now, what I mean by that is, when you have an expensive item, if you're selling a clothing item that's $100 or even $50, $60, you better be measuring, armpit to armpit, waist to whatever, all those measurements, because that is an expensive item. You do not want to receive a return on that item because you put large. It says large or whatever, and you didn't realize it shrunk, or someone washed it and it actually is a size less, or it's stretched out, it's bigger, or whatever the case may be. Now, a lot of people say take measurements for everything, and I'm kind of in the boat where if it's a higher value, absolutely. If it's low tier, $5, $10 shirt, and it's just like a regular shirt, it's a little bit easier, and most times people can just, they understand the sizing a little bit better with it being large, medium, stuff. So I can kind of see that, where you can kind of get away with not measuring stuff like that. But when you're selling a $50 item, a $100 item, it's a blazer, it's a suit coat, it's a whatever, you better be measuring that so you don't get that return, or you don't have a customer really unhappy because you said it was whatever and it doesn't fit quite right, doesn't fit correctly. And it's going to help you not receive a lot of questions. High value items, the people that will message you constantly on what is the size, what is the armpit to armpit, what is this, what is that, what's the back spread, all that stuff. And if you don't have that information in there already, they're just going to message you and you're going to have to answer. You're going to message, you're going to have to answer. And then it's just going to be this long ordeal. You might as well just get those measurements done and put in there in the first place, and it's going to save you a lot of time, headaches down the road, returns down the road, all that kind of stuff. So make sure you're really taking those measurements for high dollar stuff. Now, this leads me to number 5. Shipping your clothing items to your customer. So many new sellers make the mistake of they just shove whatever it is into something to ship. Whether that's a priority flat rate mailer, they're just or whatever they can do to get it in there and close it, which I can understand and I relate to when trying to save money with shipping and all that stuff. But there's ways around it that actually can be better. So my suggestion is make sure you're getting poly bags 100%, because it's going to wrap it in plastic. It's going to look nice. You can fold it up nice. You can put it in the poly bag. It's going to look professional. You could even leave a business card or something in there so they can come back to it. Also, they make the air suction bags or something like that, where if you really need to fit it into that certain bubbler or that mailer to save money on shipping, you can suck all the air out of it and put it in there, and it just looks good too. So really think about how the customer is going to receive that item. They are wearing this item. They're putting value on it, and you really got to take care of your customer in that regard. So if they buy a $50 Ralph Lauren shirt. You better be putting that in a poly bag, taping it up nice, making it folded nice, looking good, putting in something nice to ship in so it doesn't get all wrinkly and totally, crappy. Obviously, some of that's going to happen. It's the mail. It's the post office. Things are going to happen. But make sure you're putting in that poly bag because it's huge. If it gets wet somehow or they drop it in the snow and now whatever you shipped it in is kind of getting wet. If you get it in that poly bag, it's going to protect it even more and the better quality it's going to receive to your customer. So super, super huge. Just really think about when your customer opens that item, how they're going to receive it. Oh, it's nice and folded. They just feel good and they put more value to it because it just looks like a gift. It looks beautiful and they just want to put it on right away. But if it comes all mashed in a bag, they're going to like open it and it's kind of like wrinkly and they're like doing some of this and then they got to throw it in the wash or whatever. So make sure you're really taking the time, package it well, use those poly bags and just make it look nice for the customer. But you guys, that is all I have for you today. That was 5 mistakes new beginner sellers make when selling clothes, whether it's eBay or other places. So if you're a beginner and you're watching this video, make sure you listen to these and you take this advice and you change up your style and just make sure you're doing these things because it's really going to help you and push your business and your eBay store farther along. But that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for coming by. Thank you so much for stopping by. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you like this video. I really appreciate it. Make sure you comment. I want to hear if this helped you. I want to hear questions you have. Anything you want to tell me, let me know in the comments. And lastly, subscribe. Make sure you guys subscribe to this channel so you know when we go live or when I put a new video out. And you can come hang out with us live and ask me questions right away or just watch some of the content. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you so much for coming. Pocket Profit out. See you on the next one.